Hey, what's going on, guys? James here bringing another YouTube video, and this one is going to be another top 6 video, and this one is going to be a 2021 remake as well. And that's right, it's going to be a 2021 remake that's actually going to be on this channel and the gaming channel both channels. And this remake is of my top 6 favorite WWE games. Now, to get right into it, the first thing to know would be, what did I say back in 2016?
Coming at number 6 is WWE Smackdown vs. Raw 2008. 5 is WWE Smackdown vs. Raw 2007. Number 4 is WWE All-Stars. Number 3 is WWE Smackdown vs. Raw 2010. Number 2 on the list is WWE 12. And my number 1 favorite WWE game of all time is WWE Smackdown. Here comes the pain.
Now that the past is out of the way, here are my top 6 favorite WWE games here in 2021. Now, before I get into the top 6, I do want to give a quick honorable mention for my first wrestling game ever. Honorable mention, not on the list anymore, but I can't not mention it. It is WWE Smackdown vs. Raw 2010. That's right, this guy right here. The copy of my first wrestling game ever. I have since, like I've said before, gone and played like pretty much almost every wrestling game under the sun for the most part. I've played a lot. But yeah, I can't not mention SVR 2010. Because it means so much to me. And it's what started it all for me in terms of wrestling games. And I can still look back at the game fondly and love every second of the time that I put into it and not have a bad memory with it. Even in the instances where the game is just, the disc is messed up now and it freezes and stuff, like, I can't think anything bad about the game. I love it too much to say anything bad. So yeah, it's not on the list anymore. I do like other games more than that, but SVR 2010 is an honorable mention. Now let's get into the list. So number 6 is an interesting one because it kind of almost falls in the same boat as SVR 2010, where really the only reason it's on the list is because of nostalgia for me, and it's not even an old game. That game is the PS3 and 360 version, that's right, the last gen version of WWE 2K16. And I have to include it because, much in the same vein as SVR 2010, it means too much to me, because 2K16 for the PS3, it's what really started it all. Like I've said it before, I've been making content since 2014, but it wasn't until I started the universe mode, the original universe on that game, on the PS3, that I started actually taking it seriously, that I figured out what I really want to do. And even if that original series is over and done with at this point, and I'm not doing anything with it for the most part, it'll never go away. In that game, again, it just means too much to me. It's where it all started, and I can't not bring it up. In the same boat as SVR 2010. But I figure at this point I'd probably be more likely to go back to 2K16 than I would SVR 2010, honestly. Even though I think SVR 2010 has a little more replay value, I think 2K16 is just a little bit better, and it means a little bit more to me than just being SVR 2010 just being my first game. So yeah, 2K16, not really too much else to say about it, but it means a lot to me. It's where everything really started, and it's number 6. Number 5 is one you'd probably expect to see on the list. It is, of course, the series that I grew up with, SVR, SmackDown vs. Raw, and this game in particular is the 3rd SVR title, SmackDown vs. Raw 2007. Now, number 4 and number 5 both are kind of a toss-up. You can really interchange them on really any list, probably, for the most part. But SVR07 makes it in at number 5. Of course, here it is. But yeah, so SVR07, I like it a lot. I've pretty much done everything there is to do in it at some point or another. The season mode is good. I don't know if it's better than the season mode in the previous games, compared to, of course, 2007. But season mode is still good. There's still a lot of just genuine fun to be had with it. GM mode is good, even though if you want to do multiplayer GM mode, SVR7 is essentially broken. Overall, SVR7 is good, and I have a lot of good memories with it, and that's all I can really say. And one I want to say a little bit more about is number 4, which is SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, right here. Again, it's one that I really do like. It's one I like more than 07, though it was kind of a toss-up when I was writing the list. But SVR07, for the most part, or SVR06, I do just like it more. I think the GM mode was honestly better. I know a lot of people will take that as blasphemy. I don't care. I think the GM mode was better in 06 than 07. I loved it. I thought it was just a lot more fun to book everything. Heat and Velocity, they worked in 07, but it was way too hard to understand how to actually get anything to work while using them. And while I am kind of familiar with how to actually use them properly now, it was too much of a toss-up, because at the time you just want to book people who weren't on the show on Velocity or Heat, and they would get a match. But it doesn't work that way, because you book them on the show and it doesn't even count them as them being booked on a show at all. And then they can still come complain to you about morale. It's like, why am I on the show? It's like, you were on a show. It's not my fault the game's broken. But anyway, I didn't need to do a tiny rant on SVR07's GM mode. But yeah, GM mode for the most part I think is better. The season mode honestly is kind of a toss-up. You could say either one's better. It just kind of is personal preference. The season mode stories I would probably prefer in 07, honestly. 07 I think control-wise is a little bit better too. SVR06 kind of had the mix between what they would move to and what they had before control-wise. But there's also a lot of cool stuff that they added in 06 and then took out. They never brought it back. Like the double knockout with the stamina system. That was always really cool. Very situational. You didn't get it often, but it was cool. The sleeper hold mini game where you could actually, the ref raise an arm and then let it drop, and you could win or you could build suspense for a match or just lose. It was cool. It's small little details like that were in the game that didn't make it to other games. For one reason or another, I'm not sure. But overall, SVR06 again, I think SVR06 is good. But yeah, SVR06, really like it. Season mode's good. Has some nice replay value overall. GM mode, I think, is the best iteration of it that they had, which I know is a super unpopular opinion. People love 07. And some people are even super nostalgic for 08 at this point. Can't fault them. But I do think GMO just functioned the best in 06 overall. But yeah, 06, not too much else to say about it. Let's get to number 3. Number 3 will be the most recent title on this list, and what a good game it was that most people didn't shit on it, but they definitely took it for granted a little bit. And that game is WWE 2K19, the last WWE game, as far as we know, that Yuke's is ever gonna make. Yeah, as far as we know, this will be the last game made by Yuke's, and honestly, they knocked it out of the park. They really did. They took everything that had been just bad about the series to that point. They refined most of it, and there are some things that aren't great. I know some people have kind of complained about stuff, some of the newer editions, like the division system and universe mode. I don't think it's an issue. The people I'm talking about, I know their reasoning for it was oh, but with the division system, you can't do book 2 title. You can't have a person hold 2 belts at one time, which is not true. You can still book that match yourself, but if you're someone who really relies on the AI booking universe mode, well, yeah, it's not gonna work that way. But if you really want that to happen, just book it yourself. It's not difficult. I mean, the game shouldn't have to do everything. It should be kind of a good mix between you booking and the AI doing some things here and there. But that's coming from someone who, one, when I do like the realistic universe mode, I don't even use universe mode. And two, when I do a universe mode using universe mode, I don't know, I don't let the AI do anything. Because I don't like the AI doing anything in universe mode. I like to be in control of everything. I want to book all my matches. I want to decide who's in a rivalry and who's not, and who are the champions, what championship matches will there be, what stipulations are going to be used, etc. I want to be the one making the calls, not the AI. So I don't use the AI for anything anyway. But regardless, that was a little mini rant, whatever. 2K19, I definitely think it improved in a lot of things. It's not perfect, but I think it's as close to a perfect 2K wrestling game as we're gonna get. Unless 2K22 blows us out of the water, but I don't think it will. It'll absolutely be an improvement, we hope, to 2K20, but that's not saying much because 2K20 was not good. It wasn't. Regardless, 2K19, it took the slower gameplay of 2K18, sped it up just slightly to make it feel good to play, but also keep it kind of realistic. And it kind of made that really good balance between, again, having a little bit faster gameplay and realism, like I just said. And we haven't had a good balance for those two things in a very long time. But I definitely think 2K19 hits that balance, and honestly hits the balance better than some of the older games that also had that balance better than most. And again, 2K19 is just, it's good. It has the replay value, kind of. Like, it's got replay value in the sense that it's just fun to play. It's hard, at least in my opinion, it's hard to get sick of playing it. It takes away replay value in the sense that what you get for career mode, it's a very linear story, and that story that they tell is very good, but it's still a very linear story, and once it's done, it's done. There's really nothing else you can do in it. And then, of course, the showcase mode is a showcase mode, and that never has replay value because it's a one-and-done mode. And again, the Daniel Bryan story was good, but it's a one-and-done mode. And for something so recent, you probably don't even need to relive the moments anyway. So it's, at that point, it's really only useful if you really missed out on Daniel Bryan's ascent to the top. And again, with how recent it is, most of the people playing the game more than likely didn't. But overall, 2K19, I definitely think it was an absolute step in the right direction. It was a good game overall, and I think there's an absolute reason why fans are still modding 2K19 as a base and adding other things into it. Because at the end of the day, if there was a better wrestling game to use for a base, they could use that instead of 2K19, but they're still using 2K19, and I definitely think that says a little bit. But the two top spots on the list. Number 2 is WWE All-Stars. I love this game. I love this game. It is one of my favorite games. Honestly, I'd probably say it's one of my favorite games of all time, not just one of my favorite wrestling games. It is so good. And again, I love it. It takes, again, it's like super arcadey, and like it's super arcadey, but it's also very well made. And yes, I mean, it does lack depth. There's like no replay value whatsoever. But gameplay wise, that is what I care about when it comes to like this arcadey wrestling game, and I love it so much. It really is good. And I understand why some people can't get into it. Some people just don't like the arcadey wrestling stuff. But honestly, for me, I really don't like it. I've never liked the comparisons between All-Stars and Battlegrounds, because as someone who loves All-Stars, who's good at the game, who loves it so much, has put, honestly, yeah, way too much time into it. I desperately wanted to like Battlegrounds. I did. And I tried to play it, and I couldn't. I hated like every second that I played of it. And I don't think Battlegrounds is good. But if you like it, again, take that with a grain of salt. Enjoy what you want to enjoy. Don't let someone saying something is shit ruin your enjoyment. Just enjoy what you want to enjoy. But for me, in terms of like a pure arcade wrestling game, All Stars is where it's at. It's the cream of the crop for me, and I love it. Just everything about it screams fun to me. But the last game to mention, which before I mention the number one on the list, if you want to see me go in depth about any of the games, again, just let me know, and I can definitely try and figure out a way to do that. Figure out how I want to do that. Number one is an obvious pick. It was number one on the previous video, the original two. Number one is regarded as really one of the two best wrestling games of all time. This game is Smackdown, Here Comes the Pain. Mr. Brock Lesnar right there. Smackdown, Here Comes the Pain. Absolutely love it. It really is one of the best wrestling games of all time. And I know some people are like, well, Shut Your Mouth is actually better. It's like, well, No Mercy, blah, blah, blah. It's like, look, I don't care. Again, like what you want to like. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Just enjoy what you want to enjoy. But I think there's a reason why probably 99% of wrestling fans who play wrestling games, mind you, will put Here Comes the Pain and No Mercy as the top two wrestling games. Even if like they can't decide what game is really number one, normally they can come to the agreement that those are the top two. Those would absolutely both be on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling games. And Here Comes the Pain, again, it has the replay value. It has so many like different stories and feuds and everything in the season mode. Like gameplay wise, it is just fun. Even when you're losing, Here Comes the Pain is still fun. Not many games can say that. Like you're getting your ass kicked and it's still fun. But Here Comes the Pain is that weird game where like it is like gameplay wise, Here Comes the Pain is essentially like arcade and realism meeting together. Like I said for 2K19, no, I don't think it meets the balance as well as 2K19 does. It does lean way more on the arcade style, but that is fine. But in terms of just pure fun factor when playing, I don't think any game has topped Here Comes the Pain. And I know some people will be like, well, No Mercy. Like, one, I haven't played No Mercy. I can't say. I never had an N64. And two, like, I don't know. Everything I've seen of N64's games is like, it looks fun, but like everything about the N64 just seems so dated now, and it's not even like. And I know some people are like, well, yeah, it's dated. It came out in the 90s. Like, sure, yeah, but there are some things that you can put in like a PS2 game now, and it's still fantastic. It's the gameplay itself feels timeless, not dated. It'd be like with music. It's like, yeah, you can say a band is like dated, but if their music overall, if the music and the lyrics overall stand up, they'll stand up. Like, they'll stand out and be timeless. But if you have a band who only caters and like, if you have a band that's essentially just dwelling and kind of leeching from this one genre, and that's all they do, and they just like bleed it dry, that band's music, more than likely looking back on it, is going to feel dated. It is not going to stand up anywhere near as well as you would think it would. I say, as most wrestling fans are fans of Limp Bizkit, and their music does not hold up at all. I said what I said. Regardless. Again, that was a mini rant, whatever. Here Comes the Pain, one of the best wrestling games of all time. I absolutely love it. Probably, again, one of my favorite games of all time. Not just for wrestling games. Yeah, Here Comes the Pain. One of the best. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. Those were my top 6 favorite WWE games of all time as of 2021. It might change at some point. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, if you want to see me go in depth about any of the games, or really just any, like, games in general, let me know, and I can try and do something with that. But until next time, I'll see you later. Bye, guys.